everyone. Welcome to my Project Hell. As you can see, I am not Kelly and I'm certainly not Paul. They are out for the next 2 episodes. So I'm going to be showing you guys a presentation they did with the Puget Sound PMI for the next 2 sessions. So we'll watch the first half today and then the second half in 2 weeks. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And as always, feel free to participate in the chat, with everyone who's watching live. And then if you have any questions, you can put those in too, and I'll pass them along to Kelly and Paul and they can review them when they're back. So I'm gonna share my screen again. All right, here is the first half of their presentation.
Okay, and then I hand over to Kelly and Paul for the keynote speakers.
Great, thank you, Bart. Hello, everybody. Welcome tonight. I'm Kelly Schockler from Project Management Rebooted, a project management training, education, and coaching business.
And I'm Paul Thompson from Metagire. And with Kelly, Byrne said, we put out My Project Hell. It's intended to help project managers deal with what plagues all of us sometime or another during our career. And so before we get started, we kind of want to kick this off with a poll, right? We would like to know, where are you in understanding and your readiness for that next chapter in your career? You got it? Kind of figuring it out?
Here it is.
Still, on the fence. And there's no right or wrong answer. We're all on different parts of our path. As you guys fill this out, remember, please contribute to this conversation by using the chat, right? Share your thoughts, your opinions. We love to hear that. And we will get some answers to any questions you drop in there towards the end. All right. So how are we looking with those poll results? Coming in strong? There we go. All right. Looks like most people, a lot like all of us, right? We kind of know where we're going for the most part. Few still figuring out. It's the people that have it exact that I want to get with later, because
Me too.
I'm still trying to figure it out.
Cool. Well, let's take a look at where we're going tonight. So one thing we all know, and that is nothing is static. Change is always happening. Byrne, can you go to the next slide, please? Thanks. So we're going to kick off the evening with a brief look at how career development and job hunting has changed over the last 10 years and the implications for project management job seekers. And then we're excited to share a tool that Paul and I have created and developed to help you assess your skill set, your strengths, your weaknesses against the market, and also to aid you in identifying where some gaps might be. And not only that, but really helping to guide you into making an action plan to do something about it. So we're not going to leave you shortchanged there. And then we'll do a quick rundown on interpreting the results from the output of the tool. We've also got a few resources to share with you. We thought that would also be helpful tonight. And of course, we're going to make room for Q&A at the end. But if you have any questions as we're going through this presentation, please pop them in the chat. One of the PMI team members is going to make sure that they are jotting these down, and they'll bring them up during our Q&A portion of tonight's presentation. So now that we're all lined out on what's happening in the next hour, let's jump into leading boldly in a modern world and find out exactly what's changed that impacts us and our project management profession.
Thank you, Kelly. As you guys might expect, oftentimes, to see where we want to go, we have to sort of look back for where we've been. And people have been managing projects forever, right? But by all accounts, project management early on was by brute force. There was no scientific methodologies. It was just done for God and country. Think Egyptian pyramids, the American Railroad, even building the Hoover Dam, right? All of those things were accomplished by sheer willpower. Fast forward up to about 1958, and all of a sudden the advancement of the computer kicks in, and CPM and PERT, materials management, those tools are developed to help calculate scheduling and to control costs. But only large government projects that really can afford that kind of support are taking advantage of it. Some of the things that ran then were, NASA. I mean, they sent folks to the moon using these things. And even the early internet, back when they were laying down ARPANET. All of that was testing out that early first kind of scientific method. Then if you start to look at the 1980s, right, things started to really shift for project management. x86 PCs replaced the big mainframe. 1985 is when Microsoft introduced MS Project for the first time. And it wasn't though until 1996 that the first PMBOK edition was introduced and published. Project management at that point really was available to the masses for the first time. You move forward into 2000, and we now are looking at what Kelly and I believe really can be a project management revolution. Think about it. We've got unlimited access to information and locations through the internet. There are agile methodologies tailored to each industry or project type. We have a mobile workforce that can be harnessed from anywhere in the world, regardless of where you are. This next phase, for our perspective, is really going to offer boundless opportunities for project managers if they have the competencies and know how to harness them in order to kind of ride that tsunami of projects that's coming our way. Now, I talked a little bit about where we've been with project management. Kelly's going to tell us a little bit more about, business side, because that has a huge impact on our careers. Kelly?
Yeah, thanks for that warp speed history from pyramids to NASA and the 80s. I'm glad you covered the 80s, Paul. So let's talk about social contracts, because that's part of this historical relationship too. But before we start going into social contracts, let's define what that means. I think that can be confusing sometimes. So the definition of a social contract is an agreement between members of a society, a community, or an organization. And it spells out the obligations and the functions and the rights of each of its members or the people who are agreeing to the contract. So when you've got two people or parties joining in a social contract, they are essentially saying, yes, we agree to these roles and we're going to uphold our part in it. But when we talk about the social contract between employees and employers, this is a contract that's been built not on mutual agreement, but more on implicit assumptions. In other words, we've got a contract that we've got employees and employers, they haven't formally negotiated an agreement, right, between them. This has unfolded over time where employers have primarily been driving the terms of agreement. But regardless, we've got a social contract in place right now, and it's continuing to evolve just as it has since the dawn of time. So let's get more explicit with this. It used to be when you were an employee back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, that when you worked for a company, it was for many years. You got pension, healthcare, other benefits, and you stayed there, do or die, come hell or high water, the gold watch, whichever came first, right? And you thought that if you got let go or if you got fired, it was over. You were marked, damaged goods, you're not going anywhere. Now, fast forward to today and contrast that with how strange does it sound when you find out someone's been in a company for more than 8 years, right? It's a little puzzling. Like, you lasted for 8 years, right on, that's a long time. But when we are in these modern times, the social contract between employer and employee has changed significantly since those boomer years. So now you work for 2 years, you're good, right? That stigma, it's shifted. We've got a very healthy gig economy. that's attracting full-time employees away from the old arrangement in every arena. And then there's more competition from those employers for these resources. And that really necessitates the importance of us differentiating ourselves from everyone else out there. What do you think, Paul?
Kelly, what I'm hearing is I have more freedom to move around, but absolutely no guarantees of long-term employment. Kind
That's
of
what I'm
sounds like
thinking.
kind of sounds like we got to take care of ourselves and pick up our ownership of our career. I like that.
Exactly.
Kelly, so what are the competencies that we've kind of nailed to the wall that project managers need to focus on?
Well, the reason that we're here tonight is because Paul and I see in our My Project Hell webcast, we see a lot of folks struggling with the gaps in their capabilities compared with where the market's going and what employers are requiring. And most are really not taking that responsibility or action around planning their own professional development. And many organizations are still in that old-fashioned mindset under that old social contract premise that they drive what the professional development is that you receive, if any. And that's a precarious situation. And we're here to help assist you with a few empowering tools to make sure that you don't stay in that situation. Because if there's one thing Paul and I know for sure, it's that you are in control of your own career path, without a doubt.
That's right. Kelly and I are going to discuss an assessment tool we designed, and it'll help you find the gaps in your competencies. Then it's going to build a plan to close those gaps, and we're going to make this tool available to you later on. It's absolutely free, no strings attached. We're not going to trade for your email address, the naming rights of your first child. This is our way of paying it forward to the project community that we've been a part of for so long. Before we do go on, though, I know Kelly and I, we came up with a few things that we'd like to get more information from you guys about. So Kelly, what competencies are the people here going to have typically having difficulty with?
Yeah, so Mark, we've got another poll. So we're just curious, which one of the 10 skills in this list do you all think is the most difficult for project managers to master? And when you're thinking about this, try to think of it beyond yourself. When you're looking at your peers and others that you're working with, what do you see everyone struggling with the most? That's what we're curious about. It's hard to pick, I know.
Well, we just picked the top 10 from the list. So give everybody a few minutes to kind of hunt through them. But really, we're looking to find what is it that strikes you, right? What are the ones that seem a little bit harder to pick up over your career? How are we doing with that results? We got those yet? Let's take a look at what they're coming with. All right. Okay, dealing with ambiguity. Yeah, all right. Yeah, managing scope. Definitely different than probably the Egyptian pyramid builders saw.
Yeah, why do you say that?
I'm
just curious.
I'm pretty sure none of them had to deal with cross-functional team collaboration as a big one.
I don't know, Paul. I might disagree with you on that one.
Yeah, all right.
I think they did.
What is clear, though, is as project managers, right, in our roles, we need to have elastic skills. We need to move through very hard type skills into soft, more more emotionally driven skills, being empathetic with our team, understanding those types of things, how to motivate a team that we don't necessarily have control over, right? These are things that we as project managers have to close a lot of gaps on.
Exactly. And that's why you want to spend some time discerning where you're at in your skill set. So the value in doing a competency assessment is to help you get on the right path and cut through all the noise to better understand where your gaps are and then figure out where to focus in your own development. So in this assessment tool that we've created, which we will give you the link to at the end of this presentation, we went out to the marketplace and we talked with our peers, we talked with PMO managers, we talked to customers, and we came up with a solid list of what the expectations were across the board with those stakeholders with project manager competencies at various levels. And as you'd imagine, there's different expectations depending on the role that you're in, you know, project coordinator versus PM or senior PM or program manager. And then we asked those marketplace experts to rate the levels of experience they thought each role needed. And so we want to take a look at the assessment tool. We're going to walk through it and see what you think. Let's take a look, Paul.
All right. So this is just a snapshot of the tool we'll be giving you. And I'm not going to go through this step by step. It comes with instructions. I would encourage you to go to that tab to start out with. But I want to touch on the overall structure and how to take advantage of what we're putting out there for you. When you look at this assessment input tab, the first thing you're going to notice is a list of competencies, right? Along with definitions of them, and we also included behaviors that should be demonstrated. We want you to have a very clear understanding of each of the competencies that the marketplace has put a high value on. Then you're going to go through and you're going to rate yourself on each of those competencies. And please, it's only going to help you if you're brutally honest, right? You really got to take a look and go, how do I stack up as far as the skills I demonstrate and bring to the table for a project in each competency? Then we're probably going to ask you one of the hardest things to do that there is, right? And Kelly's always getting on me about vulnerability, and this is where we're going to make it hard for you. You need to find several people that can give you feedback as well, right? Ask others who know that they know your work, preferably see it. They're able to see you demonstrate these behaviors, either peers, your managers, project owners that you've supported, folks that can really shine a light on the places that I know for me it's personally hard to see sometimes because I just can't get out of my own way. And having somebody else give me that feedback is phenomenal. The time and effort really that you put into this self-reflection and into building that cohort is going to pay off tenfold. So don't rush through this. Take your time and make sure you've got really good folks on your list that can give you that honest and open feedback. And again, as Kelly has mentioned, as I mentioned, I promise we'll get to giving you the link. But for now, we're going to keep going.
Yeah, and maybe speaking to vulnerability, go pick up a copy of Brene Brown's Daring Greatly and read that if you've got a little trepidation around asking for honest feedback from your peers or others in your cohort. Excuse me. Yeah, I love Brene Brown. Thanks, Georgina. Excuse me, I got to clear my throat. Okay, so let's get to the competencies. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of competencies in project management. It's A to Z, right? And so when we put this together, we realized how overwhelming it can be to understand what might be most important. So we included these competencies based on what we were hearing from those market experts that we talked to. And I know for me, when I look at this list, I think, oh, they're all important. But if I had to pick just one, for me, it's project stakeholder management. I think that's so critical, building those stakeholder relationships and being strong in that skill. To me, it's the difference between moving through ambiguity, problems, and fails and staying stuck or not. You've got to know how to leverage your relationships to help move you forward. And Paul, what about you? What
Well,
what do you think's most important in the competency landscape?
I agree that relationship building is key. And certainly all of these are important. For me, and I did kind of cheat and I went and I asked my senior project managers kind of their input here. And we all sort of agreed, right? Dealing with ambiguity, especially as you move higher up through the project management roles, for us, really, it seems to come more and more important because you're doing more strategic planning, you're developing very complex project plans. And I have never been able to have all the data I want or all the answers. A lot of time I'm dealing with half truths. So being able to move when things are fuzzy is key. The last thing you want to do is get stuck in analysis paralysis. So dealing
Definitely.
with ambiguity.
Yeah, I'm curious what our attendees tonight think. You know, what do you think's most important? Just put that in the chat. Just get a little different perspective. Give them a minute for that.
And I did like Georgina's comment, right? The actual work isn't as hard as building and maintaining the relationships. There's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. It's those relationships and all the different personalities. Oh, influencing without authority. Yeah, trying to get results without authority. That's fun. But there's ways that you can effectuate that. Thanks for that input, everyone. Time management, execution. Yeah. Thanks for sharing those things.
That was awesome.
So once you go out and you do your self-assessment and you get your results, how should you interpret the results, right? That's the question. So the cool thing about this assessment is there's 4 different views into the data. So Bern, can you go to the next slide? So the first one's that general 10,000 foot view, results by assessor. So you've got your self-assessment, your cohort, and the expert, market experts. Oops, gonna go back. And the composite score, right? So it's the comparison between those 3. It's the high level look at how you rate yourself against the other 2 groups. As simple as that.
Right. The next view though into the data. There you go. The next view into the data is your self-assessment against your cohorts. And this is where we're going to help you see the difference in perspective and those blind spots that we talked about, right? Because remember, your cohorts should know your work and they should be seeing how you're performing. So it's a very powerful opportunity to catch those blind spots. And then really, it's great to have a graph, but once you identify the gaps, and really anything with 1 or 2 point difference is the big deal, those gaps, go sit down and talk to your cohorts, right? If you guys ever see my Project Hell, you know that Kelly and I are huge on having hard conversations and going and talking to your cohorts about the delta between what you think your skills at and they think your skills at is going to lead you to a lot more powerful understanding of what you need to do to close those gaps. So please it's an incredibly powerful opportunity for you if you'll take advantage of it.
Yeah, let's move on to the third view, which is your self-assessment compared to the experts we pulled in the marketplace. So the gaps in this one are clear. There's big gaps between decision making and managing project performance. So a difference between what the person who was self-assessing thought and what the market experts thought where they should be. So you can use this type of information not only to see your gaps, but then prioritize which competencies to work on, especially if you've got an eye on moving jobs or you want to move up into a promotion. So get a view into your competency blind spots compared to what the market is expecting you to have through this graph.
Right. And this last graph we put in there because not all companies value all competencies the same, right? Corporate culture, project management maturity have a big effect within any company on what they see project managers' competencies are rated at. So this is going to help you kind of move outside of that in comparison with the overall market experts and where they would like to see you for a specific role that you might be playing, right? Project coordinator, senior project manager, program manager. And so if you're thinking that your next job might be outside of the industry, or certainly if it's outside the company, take advantage of this and focus on those gaps that the market's telling you is important, even if your cohorts and you thought you were doing fine. So we've talked a lot about, you know, the data and everything, and I'm going to have us take a break because before we go too much more into this, I kind of want to give you guys a chance to know Kelly and I a little better. So Kelly, tell us a little bit about how you got here, right? And what you do.
Okay, well, for those of you who don't know me, I'm very passionate about unlocking the power of project management for others. I like to make it simple and useful for wherever people are at or wherever companies or organizations are at, because we all know project management can be confusing, it can be overwhelming, and a lot of people feel like it can be inaccessible a lot of the time. So that's the reason Paul and I started the My Project Hell webcast, exactly for those reasons. So I enjoy training small and medium companies in project management tools and approaches. And I really also appreciate coaching what I like to call accidental or aspiring PMs who, you know, some of them want to amp up their project management skill set and delivery excellence. Some are looking for help to get into the project management career. So those are a few of the things that I do. And so after the webinar tonight, head on over to my website. You can sign up for free access to my project management rebooted toolbox. I've got some solid templates in there from all my trials and tribulations and a few helpful guides. And Mark just dropped the link in the chat. So that's where you can find it.
Thanks, Kelly. A while back at Metagire, we made a conscious decision to openly share a lot of our templates and tools with the project management community. If you're looking for a tool to kind of get a handle on data center migration or trying to decide how you show ROI for your PMO, you can probably find a tool, a calculator, a template that can help. Our learning library is full of typically IT project type components. And if you see something you like there and you look around and you think Metagire might be a good place, we are looking for new project managers. We would love to talk with you. If your values and our values match up, we'd love to see if we can help with your career. But you guys didn't really come here for the commercial, so we'll get back.
Okay, but I just want to interject one thing, Paul. That is, if anyone is, you know, job hunting, ping Paul and I. We're constantly getting job request, employers seeking project managers. So just ping us and we can be happy to share what we have on our radar. Okay.